Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby here with Tony nominee Kara Young from Purlie Victorious. Congratulations on this third Tony nomination, Kara. And you know, when
Thank
when we
you.
first when we first talked, you were making your Broadway debut. You're getting your first Tony nomination for that, and now here we are. You are on your third play, third consecutive Tony nomination, and you were the first Black performer to pull off that feat. What what like emotions come up for you? What do you feel when you hear that statistic?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on today, and it's always been awesome talking with you. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Um, wow, I think like this particular nomination feels historical because of what it is, but also it's for me, it's like the acknowledgement of Ozzie Davis and Ruby Dee, 62 years ago, now 63 years ago, they weren't acknowledged for being on Broadway when Purlie Victorious was last done. And this feels like it's beyond me. It's awesome that that this has happened a third time in a row, but it feels really kind of kismet with the fact that it's Purlie Victorious and what the play represents and the resurrection of the play years later and the way that it was received and the fact that now it's available for everybody to see on PBS's great performances. And so it's more access to the world and more access to Ozzie Davis's penmanship and the fact that they both of them, Ozzie and Ruby, were so influential, so monumental in our history as we know it. We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Mm.
So yeah.
Well, I think you even wore, if I remember, a Ruby D print on your dress to opening night. Was that opening for Pearly
Yeah.
Victorious? How does
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry.
no worries. She's just obviously a legend. How does that legacy kind of show up in your performance?
Wow. Well, when I first understood that I would be stepping into the shoes that that Ruby wore, like that she originated, there's something so honorable about that, and the fact that like doing the play this since like the I think the historical nature of the fact that we were doing it so long after it had already been done, and it was like the first commercial production back since 62 years. So like there's something like the last time that you saw this character, and we're not talking about Pearlie the musical because that was incredibly done by Melba Moore. I wish I could sing, but I can't. I feel honored to step into her shoes. I feel honored to take on this role. I mean, there's so many similarities that we share. We're both, grew up in Harlem, and we're very petite people, and for years people have been telling me that I remind them of her, and that I'm like, a lot of my friends have been saying this, a lot of my aunts have been manifesting this in some kind of way. So for the fact that this happened, it felt like I just needed to listen to the fact that it happened and then just go with it, because again, it feels so beyond me, and it feels like there are other forces working, in some kind of way.
If you manifest it, it will come, I guess.
Yeah.
So, this play, the interesting thing about this play, it's different, I think, the style from everything I've seen you do up until this point, because it has this level of kind of heightened reality, and there's a bit of absurdity to it with the comedic aspects of the play. What was it like trying to locate your character within that sort of absurdity?
It was so challenging because, if you read the play on the page, there's a lot of moments that could be like, if you're like, do it literally, it can be something that we're going back into a time where this might be taken out of context, right? And so the way that Kenny meticulously directed, and then also having some of like the most incredible actors in the city, Billie Eugene Jones, Heather Alicia Sims, J.O. Sanders, Vanessa Bell Calloway coming in from Los Angeles, who was a part of the original Dreamgirls cast, and, Leslie Odom Jr. I mean, Noah Robbins, Noah Isaac, Bill Timoni. Like, there's so many of these incredible people that we were really trying to understand and craft this world. And Kenny at the helm was really also understanding the fine line of the fact that there's so many nuances in the world that we're living in today. And there's a scene in particular that makes me think of just what it means for a Black man to leave their home, and for, not knowing if they're going to come back, if it's been too long. And that, I mean, I could only imagine the people who have literally gone through that thing of not actually seeing their loved ones return. But that the fear that it evokes for every Black mother or every Black aunt or grandmother who's in a house with a Black man, or a wife, or a part, like whomever. But nowadays, we also have to be on that. Do we know if they're going to make it back? I mean, we come and we're in a, there's so many crazy things happening in New York right now, but, I think that there's just so many similarities to our current daily life, that Kenny was just very, very particular about.
Absolutely.
That was a very long-winded answer, but
no, you're good.
sorry.
It invites us to kind of laugh at some of the really tough truths in there, those truths that are still applicable to our time. Why do you think that's so effective in this play? Because it could go a bad way. It's like, oh, I'm kind of laughing at a scenario about prejudice or something that, is actually quite serious.
Right. Well, I think, well, man, there's a line in this play. There's a couple of lines in this play back to back that to me encapsulates the mastery of Ozzy and how he uses humor. Like this one little moment where old Captain Kachapi, he is exiting. Excuse me, Miss Idella is leaving the scene, and he's like, "Get out of here! Get out of here! Before I take my cane." And then he says, "Save me some of those buttermilk biscuits," right? And it's like this sort of like the psychosis of entitlement, and in the very moment, the need of the fact that we actually need each other. And so it's like this one thing that we're like, we know that that's not funny. Like, I'll take my can and we know that that's not funny, but save me some of those buttermilk. The hypocrisy of what you need from me, the hypocrisy of racism, the constructs of racism. I think, overall in all, the way that Ozzy lays humor is more about the absurdity of the construct of racism. And that's what he makes us laugh at, because it's all things that have been told to us. And there are now things that we live by due to capitalism, so we are, yeah, I think he does it masterfully. But we are able to laugh at the truth in a very meticulous way.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite moments, which is definitely on the absurdity side of the scale, is when your character Ludi Bell is just so desperately trying to recite these lines that Purlie has written for her, trying to play the deceased cousin who is feels very far removed from her. Can you just walk us through what it was like, the process of creating, the arc of that moment?
Oh my goodness. It took so, I mean, listen, I was figuring out things every single night too, because it was like a fine line of like, I know it's funny to see a woman not be comfortable in the thing that she's wearing, whether it's the heels or the fanciness of the material, or like, I know what that's like. I know what that is. So there's like that factor of being uncomfortable. And then there's the factor of like wanting to be great for the man that you love. Then there's like a bunch of other things where we're talking about excuse me, a deceased person who had a chance at life, right? And like the metaphor of cousin B to me was like a woman who was going to be a teacher, right? And she was going to teach. She had gotten so far to go to college, and it seems like in this family that part of education is not only so valued, but it's something that Purlie is also seeking himself through self-education. And so there's this, the metaphor of cousin B strikes me as becoming cousin B, as like a, I don't even know if I can be her. Then there's like one little maybe nuanced moment in the act of pretending. What does that mean to be in the act of pretending? And then like, I think Ludi Bell has had enough in a way where it's like, let me just lay everything out on the line. But I feel like it's a young woman who's battling, not even battling, but kind of going through battling too, but going through the motions of what does it mean to pretend? What does it mean to step into someone who is so far removed from, feeling like I'm uneducated, feeling like I don't know what that is, feeling like, listen, I work in homes. But what we find out is that Ludibel is quite, at the end of her journey, she's quite remarkably intelligent, spiritually intelligent.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to think about revivals, and especially the length of time that went between the original production and this one that you did, because, we often ask like, well, why this play right now? And
Mm,
you mentioned how it sort of reflects today. And I was thinking about, Ludi Bell comes in and has a line where she sort of tells Pearlie like, "Oh, Pearlie, don't be silly. Like, people can't own people anymore, but there's other ways of ownership, clearly." So
yeah.
when you think of that question, like, why this play right now, what comes to mind?
Well, I think about the political climate that we're living in right now, the state of the world, the lack of awareness of the world, the lack of ignorance. I mean, the not even lack of ignorance. Excuse me, and mm, but also like history is being buried, right? And we've always, like, it feels like historically, as humanity has existed, we of humans have existed, it feels like history has been meticulously buried. And this play says you cannot forget history. There are things that have happened that if we can all understand what has happened, then we can all heal together because we're here together now. And I feel like this is a play where Ozzy is absorbing the world around him, and he is in, installing the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our founding foundations, and also saying, I am a man. And he's also, that very famous picture, those pictures of those protests in the civil rights movement, where it's like, I am a man, but also we are humans. I feel like Ozzy lays out this absurdity to make us look at ourselves as the human that we are, that we can be in a room together, we can heal together, we can laugh together, we can cry together. You know, Kenny talks about that all the time. Like, this is a love letter to Black people. It's also a love letter to the fact that we have to create the environments that we're going to be in. I mean, Purlie is a flawed man, but he's also seeking to preach freedom for all mankind. So it's really about the liberation of all oppressed people. It's liberation for people. It's liberation for humanity. You know? Yeah. Why this play? Everything about this play is why this play. Because sometimes it's hard to look at the truth, but it's important for us to see the truth. It's important for us to study the truth.
Very well said. Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, I love that the three plays you've had on Broadway have showed such a different side of your performance skills. This character is very different from Cost of Living, very different from Clyde's, and I've loved watching you on I'm a Virgo, which is another, very different side of you. Is there kind of like a style or another type of character aside that you haven't gotten to show yet that you'd love to in some other project?
First of all, thank you for watching I'm a Virgo, Sam. Um, yeah, they are all such different women. All, to me, all really an homage or homage to Black women in America, in all different aspects. Like, so much nuance in all of those plays. The incredible Lynn Nottage, the incredible Martina Mayotte. I think that yes, I would love to. I know that there are roles that I haven't touched yet, and I feel like, because like this spectrum of Blackness is so wide and vast, and there are people that I have never seen too, and like yes, yes to more stories, and yes to more revolutionary stories, and I hope to be a part of a lot of that storytelling, because I know that there are so many women that that need to be heard and need to be seen.
Hmm. Well, we can't wait to see where you go next. So thank you and congratulations again on your recent Tony nomination, and it's always a pleasure, Kara.
Thank you so much, Sam, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate talking with you.